Right, we're live. Awesome. Okay, it's 1 minute late. So it's 4:01 on Monday afternoon in the UK, 11:01 on the east coast of America, and different time zones everywhere else in the world because that's how this thing works. Welcome to another edition of Give Out But Don't Give Up. I nearly said give up but don't give out, but I don't think it's quite got to that stage yet. I think we're all still plugging away, although I have regressed to the sofa this week. Only 3 episodes in. Episode 1 was in the office, episode 2 was at the table, but now I think we're going to stick to the sofa. Although I'm still wearing a shirt, so we'll see how that goes over the next few weeks. So it's been an interesting 7 days. The general collapse of modern civilization continues apace, and we all are seeming to deal with it in our own way. So I think we should start with the people we want to give out about. Thank you everyone who has sent them in via Instagram and via email and every other way you've done it. So once again, top of the list is the banks. The banks in the UK, I don't know how this is going in the US. I know that the US help for small businesses only went live on the 3rd of April, so I guess it's early days. But here in the UK, the banks, the 40 plus banks and other providers who've been given the license by the government to give out the support during the coronavirus outbreak are being useless at giving out that support. Not only are they short-staffed, despite the fact they've been given free business, they're taking an age to get back to everyone. So banks, this is on you. You actually, given the fact you were bailed out 10 years ago, you owe it to everybody else to give them a bit of support now and actually give a shit. There's probably going to be some swearing today. The people I really want to give out about this week are the people who were out and about ruining it for everyone over the weekend. So we saw all the news over the weekend saying the weather's going to be nice, don't go out. Here in the UK, where we're currently quarantined, people went out. People had barbecues on the beach, people went to the park, people sunbathed, and apparently they don't realise it's not okay to do that. I saw there was a really nice movement. Here in the UK, every Thursday at 8 p.m, everybody opens their windows and their doors and goes into the street. And first week they were clapping for the NHS, second week they're clapping for everybody who's keeping the country some kind of moving. But somebody posted on social media yesterday that next Monday night at 8 p.m, we should all open our doors and yell a very rude word repeatedly, beginning with W and ending in anchor, for all the people who can't abide by the rules and are ruining it for everybody else, because the chances are if you can't stay at home, we're all going to get locked in and then nobody can even breathe a bit of fresh air, which then has a knock-on effect on the mental health of people without gardens, on the stress levels of people who just can't go out and get some exercise to clear their heads. And I think it's really important to realise right now this is a really stressful time for a huge amount of people. There are people whose businesses are crumbling, there are people who don't know when they're going to get paid by their jobs, there are people who don't know if they even have a job anymore. And they're stuck in between the four walls of their house. And sometimes this bit of exercise once a day is the only respite they get from that. And actually, at these really difficult times, if you ruin it for them and you just keep these people locked in their house with their stress and their anxiety, the repercussions on mental health and what then follows from that don't bear thinking about. So, for God's sake, if you're one of the idiots, stop being an idiot and let's all coexist and do this properly. Okay, so I put out and asked various people I put out to social media at Human Andy Swan. If you ever want to connect on Instagram, we are at andyswan.io. If you want to visit the website for this show, I'm putting a request or a question through the website, or you can email. I forget, every week I make up a different email address, but just email. Let's email show@andyswan.io. And I will pick those up, but you can tell us what you want to give out about this week. It's interesting, a lot of the queries coming in this week are less about how do I cope with remote working, my world suddenly changed, how do I deal with it, because I think we're all kind of in the swing of it. So the really important one I've had this week is the fact that there is no flour in somebody's local supermarket. The give out is there is no flour. I don't even need it really. It just feels weird not being able to get it. So that is where our mental health is as a nation here in the UK at the moment. The next one I have in is, and this is actually a really important one, and I think echoed by most of Britain. Can we find a way to tell Piers Morgan to shut the something up? If only that was possible. I think most of Britain has been trying to find a way to do that for about 30 years now, and clearly, given the state of morning TV every day, haven't yet managed it. If you find a way, please do write into the show, and we will see if we can execute that live on next week's show. And then, yeah, this interesting one, going back to what I was saying just now, when are we going to start clapping the people who are trying to survive without pay? They're the heroes we don't hear about, the people who have absolutely no idea how they're going to get through this economically, the stress they're under at the moment. They deserve as much clapping as everybody who's keeping the country running. I think pretty much everybody, apart from the dickheads in the park doing the sunbathing, need a bit of clapping from all of us right now. So yeah, share the love. And that's the give out. So let's move on to the not giving up for this week. A bit of clever timing on my part, and I know this doesn't apply to the US who are still at school and everywhere else in the world, because I know we have viewers from all over. However, here in the UK, I've cleverly timed this with the start of the Easter holidays, although what it does mean is that pretty much every parent who was already working at home and working out how to homeschool is now dealing with how to occupy children when they think they don't have to do their schoolwork anymore. So what I wanted to talk about today was well, initially homeschooling, and all the factors around that and how you can balance that, particularly when most people are now home working. And so I thought I would bring in some experts. So we will chat about that, but we'll also get their advice on how to generally survive when your children are running rampant around the house and you're trying to stay productive. So I'm really excited to welcome to the show Lucie and Rich Lloyd. I'm going to put you guys up on screen right now. There they are. Give us a wave. Yes.
Hey, you're right.
That's a good start. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on. So tell everybody about your life, because homeschooling isn't a new thing for you guys.
No, so we've got 3 children, 8, 6 and 3. Our 8-year-old started primary school. She did half of her reception year before we moved house. We moved and put her into a new school, which was quite traumatic. I think she's quite a sensitive little thing. It's quite a traumatic thing anyway. We moved her over, and we were basically just disappointed with the level of schooling at this new place. Couldn't bear to put her through moving again, and we pulled her out. And we didn't know at that point if it was going to be forever, but we didn't look back. We got into it, and we kind of just carried on. So now our second child, Penny Lane, who's 6, she did a tiny bit of nursery school and pulled her out, didn't bother finishing, and then our third child has never ever been in a strict school environment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess that sounds like it's working in that case.
It's definitely working. It works for us. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. It might not work for everybody, but it definitely works for us. Yeah.
Awesome. So before we get on to like advice and things like that for how people balance everything, and I guess you're both probably working from home while trying to balance it at the moment, a bit different to your kind of normal routine of homeschooling. But tell us about kind of, I guess for most people have just kind of been thrust into having to homeschool for X amount of time and try to keep it going. And you see as well, there's been kind of communications coming back from schools saying, oh, tell the kids not to worry too much about doing their work because it's too much pressure on the parents, too much pressure on the kids, and it all kind of stops. Like for you guys, if this is how you educate anyway, you have to keep that level of quality going for the sake of your kids' futures. So talk about how easy it was to kind of get set up in a way to make homeschooling work.
Yeah, so the first point I think I'll make is that we home educate. So homeschool, I know, is a term often used in America, and it's being thrown around quite a lot right now. But we choose specifically not to try and replicate school at home. So we are educating our kids at home, and that comes in such a variety of ways. So we tend to fall somewhere vaguely into the bracket of unschooling, which basically means that the way you are with your children when they're young, when they're small, and you're kind of watching a bit of telly, you might go to the library, you go to the park. We kind of just live like that. Our kids are learning through life. We do sit them down. They do the occasional books and things, but we don't have a super structured life. And I know that a lot of the teachers, like you say, we've seen some that have really been good about taking the pressure off. It's impossible to replicate school at home. And I hate to think of the parents out there that are really feeling the pressure to kind of make a schoolroom effect in their living room. Like, it just, why would the kids ever respond to that? It's totally foreign. They're at home with their mum, they're in their safe place, their mums and dads.
I think that's a really interesting point. I think because you selected, I love the phrase unschooling. I think that's really cool. You kind of selected to do, to educate from home. And so I guess because of that, it was a conscious choice to move away from the school system. So for you, why would you replicate the school system at home? And I guess it's almost an opportunity if parents do get this chance to kind of do this, educating from home for X amount of time, to experiment and see what works. And just as much as everyone who's been thrust into working from home and working remotely has to work out, when can I be productive, when do I do my best work, actually it's almost an opportunity to do that with your kids and see what they respond best to.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And also every kid's different, right? And in a classroom of 20, 30 kids, you have a teacher and maybe a teacher assistant trying to understand those kids and teach all those kids all at the same time, trying to teach them all at the same speed and whatever. Through home educating, some days the kids can be really engaged and highly absorbent in what you're trying to talk about. And other days it's just not going to go in. There's just no point hitting your head against a brick wall. So you've got to get that balance, and having that unstructure, you can really push your strengths and weaknesses on all of that.
Yeah, it's quite child-led. So the reason I wouldn't sit my children down and make them fill out a worksheet is because I remember I've got a kind of bad relationship with maths. I used to hate maths, and it's because I was told to sit down. I had to do it at that point, whether I was feeling a bit arty or like I wanted to do something different. And I've grown up as a woman. I don't like to sit down and do mathematical stuff. So my kids will learn when they're baking, or I just said about it on my Instagram today, when you're playing Monopoly or when you're sharing out a piece of cake. Like if the kids are interested, they're going to respond so much more. And so I do feel for people who are really trying to follow a kind of a timetable that maybe has been set for them, that just their kids, you have to kind of follow the kids' interests, I think.
Yeah, interesting. And I think that's I love that idea that maybe you can get maths out of measuring out things for baking. And actually, if you love baking, but you can still absorb the maths through that kind of life circumstance. And do you find that kind of finding the right project for a kid, is it kind of individual activities, or do you need to kind of try and find projects, or is it a combination of both to engage them?
Yeah, I think a combination of both. One thing that is a struggle sometimes is that the age range for us now, we started our home education journey days before I had our third baby. So at that point, we had a newborn. We survived for a long time. We weren't doing anything. We were just living, and they were bonding with their sister. So something that can still be an issue is that if we do something, it needs to suit a 3-year-old all the way to an 8-year-old. But one thing that we really try and do is cut out bits of time to spend one-on-one. Our middle girl absolutely loves anything practical. So yesterday we were in the garden and she was all over it. It's really like following their interests and trying to get a bit one-on-one time, but also project-based stuff. They all like to learn similar things at the same time too. It really is a mix. There is no formula to it. We totally wing it.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it mostly is project-led though, isn't it? Because we'll talk about a topic, and out the blue, without even realising it, it applies to maths, it applies to history, it applies to health, it applies to geography. It can just apply to so many different things. Whereas if you try and sit down and do maths or whatever for an hour or two, that can be really boring. But if you go for a walk through the woods, it's amazing how many subjects actually apply to that you can talk about and apply and things.
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you said about winging it. I kind of, like, given what's just happened in the world, and you see news reports of a lot of people saying the kids are so anxious, the kids are stressed, their routine's been broken, they don't know what to do with themselves, they don't know how to cope with this. And this kind of idea of actually, I work in innovation, and we talk about, the world's going to change at any given time. But this last few weeks is an example of how literally things can change in an instant, like completely. And I kind of think if children are kind of given a rigid structure continuously, actually maybe they won't be so adaptable and able to adapt or respond when things do change. And do you find that kind of being able to wing it means that your kids are more adaptable, they're kind of more, it's easier if their routine gets broken or things like that, it doesn't kind of send them off the rails?
Yeah, that's absolutely nail on the head. We want our kids to grow up with these really core life skills. And we live in an age where there's information at our fingertips and anybody can learn anything. And we want to provide our kids with the skills to be self-motivated, to know how to find information. That really is nail on the head. What we want is to teach our kids life skills.
Because the thing is, skills is the easy bit, right? You can sit and study and learn subjects, skills as in work skills. It's the people part and the life skills, and being agile and adaptable and having a good head on your shoulders. They're the things that don't seem to be taught in any sort of shape or manner. It's just the luck of what parents you have. Do you know what I mean? It's outside of the education system.
And that kind of that communication aspect. So there'd be a lot of people who before all this would say, well, I'd never homeschool my kids because it's important that they get that social contact and they go and mix with other children. And obviously right now, pretty much everyone is confined to home. So like, what's your response to kind of how do you ensure that particularly with your kids, like other kids will be at school while yours are at home. How do you ensure they get that social contact and they get that kind of confidence and communication ability that comes from it?
Yeah, this is our number one question that we get asked when we say that we homeschool. People say, but what about your kids? How do they interact with other people? And the first and most important thing, I think, is that at school, it's forced association. It's not socialisation. So when I was at junior school, I was forced to be in the same class with the same people every day. I got bullied. It was awful. And I didn't have much of a choice. Those are the people that I was surrounded with each day. Our children have over time developed, and I hope will continue to develop these skills where they can go into any situation with people of any age, in anywhere you like, and they are really good at speaking. We've been to nursing homes and they've sat with old people and coloured with them, and they are great with babies. Like, you can put them in kind of any situation and they'll adapt, which goes back to the kind of life skills that we want to teach them. You're right, in the week when we go to the supermarket, people say, oh, day off today, and my kids are well versed. They say, no, we're homeschooled. Lots of people don't get it, but
also we're not the only educators, right?
Yes, so there's a bigger community than you would think.
So there's other kids that they do go and see, and we have activities with, and friends and family that we go and see. It's not, there's this sort of myth that these homeschooled kids just are locked in a room for their lives and don't actually speak to anyone, when actually it's a really full-on interactive,
quite a thriving community. And one thing that I feel a bit sad about is that everybody's talking about homeschool at the moment, and what's happening now is a forced distance learning. It's not a true reflection of what people who consciously choose to home educate are doing. It's really different because we spend a lot of time out of the house. People say, oh, this must feel really easy to you. This is kind of what you're used to. And it's not at all. We're always out. We're always at groups, doing fun stuff and at the park and the library. It's quite different for us too. But
so I guess you're locked down as much as everyone else is right now. And just because you don't send your kids to school, that doesn't mean that they are locked in the house.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, I think this is fascinating. There's going to be so many people that want to know more about this kind of approach to education. What's your gut instinct? Do you think at the end of all of this, when the world kind of comes back to life, do you think there'll be a lot of people who are kind of thinking there might be an alternative way? There might be an alternative way to educate the kids, or do you think most people will just be like, getting back to school and out of my hair?
We've spoken about this, we wonder, and I was chatting to my brother about it this morning, and I hope there might be a wave of people who might have been tutoring or might not have. I mean, everybody gets that letter through the post which says your child's due to start school in September, and you apply and you're in this rat race, everybody is, and it really takes kind of a poke or a push to widen your horizons and see what else is out there. And I think it's thrown home educators into the forefront a little bit to be able to show what we do and that there is another way. Yeah,
there's alternatives. There's more than one education system. There's loads of them, and if it means opening the eyes to people that actually there are other ways, there might be this. You'd hope that there would open people's eyes, but it might make other people realise how grateful they are for the school system, and if that fits their lifestyle and their lives, then that's great. That's up to them.
Yeah, we appreciate that it's not for everybody. It isn't possible for everybody. But if people were thinking about it before, and it's maybe kind of pushed them into a situation to be able to think about going forward more seriously with home educating, then I would say, like, hang in there. And it is different. What's happening now isn't quite the same as home ed, but yeah, it's definitely a taster.
Yeah, just don't give up. Keep going.
Yeah.
give out, but don't give up, as they say.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions in that we got sent in. Unfortunately, nobody put a name to these questions. We got email addresses which I can't read out live. But if you're going to send a question, put your name on it, because then at least we can give you credit. So this is a topic of conversation I've avoided this far, but I think is really relevant to what's happening now, and it's much more about what happened. Like, a lot of the questions that have come in are more about what happens when you're all forced into this position where you're educating at home, where you're trying to work at home as well, and how do you kind of cope with that? So I'm going to start with, let's go in this order. So first question for you guys: how can my partner and I balance so we both get our work done and give the kids the right focus without going insane?
I mean, I think that's such a individual family lifestyle. You know, I've always been a natural night owl. Other people are natural morning people. Now, you know, some kids like sleep for 15 minutes in the night. Some kids want to sleep for 14 hours. It's really is about getting balance and, you know, in your entire family and working. I mean, it's not an easy question to answer, is it? Because it's so subjective. I mean, we can only answer from our point of view.
Yeah, which is that it was trial and error, and there have for sure been arguments and like a bit of juggling to get to a point where, I mean, it's been a roller coaster ever since we started to kind of find our groove. It's generally me with the kids, and I am the morning person, and you are the night owl, and so I will slot in bits of work. My work can be done in short, sharp bursts. So if the kids are doing something which is kind of self-motivated, like they've just been doing Lego, I've given them a Lego challenge, and then they'll sit for a bit. Or some people don't like to use screens. We're not adverse to screens. The kids are watching a movie right now. I can work in short, sharp bursts. That's kind of how it works for us. And then Rich has kind of more intense work at the computer, which he'll be kind of shut away for. But it swings and roundabouts, because also I had a job where I was going out and teaching kids, and Rich took the afternoon. He's self-employed, so he could. So it really is. It's such a personal formula.
So that's I mean, we've just got the advantage where we've set our lives up where we can handle it. Whereas if you're working 9 to 5 in a bank and you got strict. It still can work, but there's sacrifices involved, and you have to get the right balance for your family. Whereas we've purposely set our lives up to have this lifestyle. And I think that's our advantage, is that it's part of our life. It's not a thing to do. It's not like just a...
it's our priority. They're our babies. That's all we ever wanted. They're our priority. And at this season of our lives, we're making the calls to make that work, and it's hard. It's not easy. It's definitely hard, but we try our best.
Absolutely. So what one piece of advice would you give to someone who's trying to not go insane, trying to balance work and homeschooling at the moment?
Well, I think as soon as you create tension and pressure, then everyone loses out. So there has to be give and take from all parts. So, the kids have to understand that there's boundaries, and, they can't be shouting and screaming and singing when you're on an important phone call. So they need to understand those boundaries. At the same time, if you're working from home and there's kids around, you've got to expect a certain level of noise or, certain space within your home that, is sort of a bit of a territory thing. If there's one bit of advice, it's just to communicate and understand each other's and what each other needs, and don't be too harsh on yourself. If it's not working, it's fine. Just tweak it. Figure something else out. You don't have to get it right first time.
And do you think that,
it's
now that, like, given that more and more people are having to work from home at the moment, so more and more people are constantly on Zoom calls and Skype meetings or the platform of their choice for their meetings. But like there was that famous video of the guy who was trying to do the talk and his kids came in and he palmed them off. And like the worst thing about that video, the best thing obviously is his wife kind of scrabbling in and gathering the kids looking terrified and then shutting the door. But the worst bit is like he just pushed them, like he just couldn't bear to have them around. And there was like a lot of people like if he just picked one of them up, put them on his lap and carried on talking, everyone would have been happy. No one would have minded. And do you think that increasingly, because more and more people are working from home at the moment, that kind of thing's going to be okay? You know, if you get interrupted while you're on a call, the client it's not going to be such a big deal for an important client because they're humans as well. They know what it's like. They've been through juggling the same thing. So it's kind of people are a bit more forgiving than kind of previously with keeping up appearances.
Yeah, I mean that guy was, he was on the BBC News or whatever, so he must have felt the level of prestige or whatever, the level of importance to, keep a straight face and what have you through that. But in reality, we're all human at the end of the day, and if you stay human, it's, I literally was on a call end of last week with a big client, and he was also working from home with kids in the background. It's just the way it is at the minute, and we. And actually, going back to what you said earlier, about will there be more home educators? There might be more empathy and understanding for people that work from home or are home educating. There might be, a bit more, less friction and less myths and less,
I think it's really nice. I think with that guy, I would have felt it would have been more endearing if he had picked his child up. I think, like you said, hopefully it will just make people understand and remember that we are all in this together. We are all human. It doesn't matter how high up you are on, authority-wise. We're all the same at the end of the day. We all were once children. And yeah, we're all human. Everybody just needs a little bit more understanding and love, I think.
Nice. And do you think that's, this might be an opportunity for people to start kind of being that little bit more relaxed, being that kind of thinking that actually maybe we can do things differently. Maybe I don't have to wear a tie to work, or do you think this might be kind of a slight kind of blurring of the boundaries between life and work just because everybody's been thrust into this situation?
I hope so. That's so our vibe. That is literally who we are, and we can only hope. I know that it's not the same for everybody's so different. It's not the same for everyone, but again, that just comes down to understanding each other. Hopefully, if everyone kind of just loosens up a bit and goes back into real life with a bit more gratitude for the things that maybe we've taken for granted, maybe without realising. And
I mean, I know at the top of the talk you touched on the amount of stress and anger and things, but also there's been a sense of everyone's had a forced stop and have to think about life. There's some things that people take for granted, and that's like spending time with your close ones. That's thinking about your work. Why is it so stressful or whatever? Do I actually enjoy my work? Should I be thinking about different work? Should I be thinking about working differently in the future? It's kind of a forced, moment in your life where you can reflect on everything that's going on, and so that might springboard a change in our lifestyles and the way we work and educate and things like that.
Nice, interesting. So we're gonna move back onto the practical advice now with the next question, because I'm conscious of the time is ticking. So, kind of an extension on what we said before. So, is it possible to create a productive routine in the current circumstances? And I mean, I guess you guys have already touched on this, but what advice would you give to someone to find that kind of routine that works for them, or should we have a routine?
I'd say you absolutely can find routine, but I think you can only get through your days positively if that is a loose routine. I realise through this that I'm kind of anti-schedule. I've seen lots of really specific, to the minute kind of schedules knocking around on Facebook, and I understand that for some people a loose routine might be helpful, like what have I got in the fridge, what am I going to cook the kids for breakfast. If we do that and we slot, for us, if we say, let's go for a walk tomorrow morning, that's loose. That could be like at 10, it could be at 7. But when we say it, it's more likely that it will happen. So there's the positive of that. But if it was down to the minute, it would just stress me out. I wouldn't be able to cope.
I think the thing is, don't stress if it doesn't go to routine.
Yeah, I think you have to be open to change and try to keep like maybe a loose routine. But it's definitely possible.
And I think, again, touch on what we said earlier, the family have to, or the people you're in this situation with, you have to communicate. And I think maybe the kids might need more of your attention and a bit more, maybe a little bit more love than they used to, because obviously their world has been, shaken a little bit. Now I think as long as they've got the understanding that you are here to love them and you're still here, that if you introduce a routine, then as long as you've got the balance, if you are quite strict and say, right, it's 9 o'clock, you need to sit down and do this, and you lose the love aspect, then they're just going to play up and then just not be productive. You're not going to be productive. So I think, create a loose routine, or you might want to achieve these things over the week. At what time you achieve them, don't do it down to the minute or the hour. Just sort of do a rough, loose one, and then, it probably won't go to plan anyway. So do what you can.
Great metaphor for life there.
I'm so familiar with that feeling where, like, my body gets tense, my brain's racing away with the next 5 things that I want to get done, but I think part of home ed for us, and definitely for me, is to just be mindful and to try, I know they're buzzwords, just to try and be really present and get down on my kids' level and see the world through their eyes. I personally don't watch the news and I think maybe even if you just have the radio on and stuff for music purposes, like, stuff filters in, they're little sponges, and I think exactly what you said, they're probably not even sure why. We've had a couple of wobbles this week, haven't we, of the kids just feeling a bit unsure, and they're not really sure why they feel a bit grumpy, and it is a huge change, even though it's not necessarily a massive thing for them to go through as much as it is the parents. I definitely think they feel the ripple effects of what's going on. So just understanding and not worrying about doing everything too speedy.
Yeah, nice, absolutely. That's great advice. So I have one final question for you guys, and I'm going to hold this one up because I think this probably sums up the mindset of the nation, dealing with everything they're dealing with at the moment. So I don't know if you can see that. Will I ever sleep again?
Yes.
What's your experience on that? People who feel like that, I guess that's kind of a reflection of people feeling overwhelmed and anxious about everything. Yeah, what's your advice to those people?
Just chill out.
I think it is such an overwhelming time, and one thing that's got me through a little bit is, if I think of the bigger picture, like, where am I going to be in a month's time, 6 months' time? When am I going to get to give my mum a cuddle again? It all gets a little bit too much. So I just keep telling myself one foot in front of the other. That's literally in an hour, in a day, in a week. It's just one foot in front of the other. What am I doing next? Breaking it all down into manageable chunks, so that I can feel satisfied and like I've had a productive time. It's literally just, for me, got to be one foot in front of the other. And we will sleep again. And a couple of quick tips would just be, try and eat well. For me, during lockdown, I've been making sure I've been on YouTube and doing exercise, like 15 minutes of cardio, just to smash out my stresses for the day, set myself up, try and sleep well.
And that's rippled onto the effect of the kids. They've wanted to be involved as well, to exercise and things. So a couple of
little yogis who like joining in.
Also, I think that's awesome advice. So what I was going to do was kind of start to round things up and say, what tips do you have for people currently facing this? But I think you've given, for want of a better phrase, a shit ton of advice to everyone. But I know that you're a resource, particularly you, Lucy, of advice and support for people who are either homeschooling or kind of unschooling, or who are kind of faced with this kind of thing at the moment. So do you want to tell people where they can find you, or where they can kind of get information from you? And
yeah, absolutely. So I've wanted to start a blog for super long time. I've sat on it for ages. You've told me to start it a million times. I haven't. I've always wondered like where exactly I would go with it. This was kind of the silver lining for me in some ways, that I felt like it was the right time to push my blog out there. I basically want it to be a platform where people can come together. It's very real, honest. I'm not an Insta mom with like a perfect house, far from it. I just want it to be a platform where people can talk, bounce off of each other, exactly what we've kind of done here. So I've got my blog, which is mindfulhomemade.blogspot.com, but most importantly, I think it's probably Instagram, and that's just at mindful.he. And I'm so happy to chat to anybody. Hopefully lots of people make connections and just vibe off of each other, and yeah, we can all get through this together.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they will. I'll make sure that we share all of your links via our channels as well, to make sure that people can grab that. And Rich, you're here as well, because you're obviously the working from home side of it at the moment. Tell everybody where they can find what you do.
Well, I run a company called Blue Flame Digital, and we make video games for the corporate world. So we apply video game technology for learning and training and things like delivering messages. And so, yeah, blueflamedigital.co.uk, we write video games for serious purposes.
Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you guys so much for taking the time and for sharing so much insight with everyone. It's been really appreciated, and yeah, it's been amazing. So thank you both so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
And continue to enjoy the craziness of the world as it is, and yeah, thank you both, and we will make sure everybody gets in touch with you.
Amazing, thank you.
Awesome, thanks guys. Awesome. So that was Lucie and Rich Lloyd. Unschool. What's the word I'm looking for? I want to say purveyors of the unschool. That's not what I mean, but I can't think of a word. They're people who unschool. But some really great advice there for everyone who's been thrust into this homeschooling, trying to work out the new status of the world, and maybe starting to think about what is the world going to look like, or what experience am I going to make for myself once this is all over. So hopefully some food for thought there for you guys. We'll be back again the same time next week. As always, you can get in touch with us. Go to the website andyswan.io with 2 N's in Swan, where you can, there's a form there, you can send in your questions, send in your thoughts. Tell us what you want to give out about, and we'll read them out at the top of the show every week. Tell us any topics you want to hear about or things that are concerning you, and also submit questions for our guests. You will find out who our guests are via the Instagram, Human Andy Swan, again 2 N's in Swan, Twitter @Andy Swan. You're getting the idea with the N's by now. So as it is, it's Monday afternoon. Have a great week, and remember to give up. No, don't give up. Can't even cut it. This is low. Give out, but don't give up. And next week we'll see if we can get this right first time.